have you ever wondered how to harmonize your health with the health of our planet? In today's episode, we're diving into a conversation with Robbie, a co-founder and chief science officer of Therasage, a pioneer in integrated infrared technology and a dedicated advocate for natural health and wellness. Robbie's journey into the world of holistic healing began after his teenage daughter was diagnosed with Lyme disease, inspiring him to explore alternative and homeopathic treatments. Through his quest, he uncovered the powerful natural healing effects of infrared frequencies. In our conversation, he reveals how connecting with nature and maintaining a conscious approach to consumerism are essential for achieving optimal health and happiness. We explore the power of detoxification through innovative methods like red light therapy and the benefits it offers for conditions such as acne and autoimmune diseases. Robbie also discusses the importance of reducing toxicity by being mindful of the products we use, choosing the right saunas for detox, and utilizing tools like ozone bubblers for sanitizing produce. Additionally, Robbie sheds light on the significance of incremental healthcare, the dangers of pesticide-contaminated food, and the impact of mold on our well-being. Join us as we uncover practical tips for making small yet impactful lifestyle changes, staying informed about product safety, and embracing a healthier, more harmonious life with the planet. You are listening to Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast, where we explore different ways to boost our well-being, live a more fulfilling life, and protect our planet. Join me as I chat with inspiring people and professionals from all over the world, uncovering strategies for improving our lifestyles and nurturing our precious planet. I am Juan, and this podcast is proudly brought to you by Wave Business Excellence Footprint, my digital training company that cares about your career and personal development. I am passionate about making the world a better place, so if you share my enthusiasm, this show is for you. Together, we can steer towards a healthier, happier life while leaving a positive footprint on our beautiful Earth. Join me as we explore how being healthy, happy, and caring for our planet are all connected. Hi, Robbie, and welcome to the Health, Happiness, and Planet podcast. It's so great to have you here.
I appreciate being here and certainly having the opportunity to talk to you and your audience about the work that we're doing and
thank you.
The interesting ways that it helps you heal.
Yes, this is definitely a hot topic for us, especially that I know that most of the listeners are searching for new ways to heal, because especially in today's world, there's so many things that we are exposed to that most people do not even realize that they're exposed to. And when they get ill, they think that they are just being a victim of certain things that is happening to them. But if they can do certain good habits in their life, then they can continuously adapt better to the outer environment and hopefully be healthier and happier in their life. I'm so happy for this conversation that we have. And my first question to you is, how did you get to where you are today? Because I think the background was that someone in your family, I think it was your daughter who got ill, and that was the trigger for you to go more towards this direction. So how was the story in getting to where you are today?
Great question, Juan. We're going back now maybe 25 years or so. And I have a science background, a medical background, engineering, a little bit of business. And so when my oldest child, my daughter, in her early teens, was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease, we found a very prominent Lyme literate doctor that was located up in New York. We lived down in Florida. Again, 25 years ago, we didn't have virtual medicine, corresponding medicine as we have now. So then traditionally in the US, you'd have a doctor, and if he was remote, he would have to give his protocols to a local doctor who would then administer and maintain the kind of the cadence or the sequencing of that protocol to the patient. So when she got diagnosed, we discovered that she was basically exhibiting high levels of toxicity, inflammation, body pain, cognitive challenges, which is very characteristic of Lyme disease. So we sought after and got the best Lyme literate doctor. what I did was I started to sort of unpack the way she was expressing herself, and I focused on toxicity. And then I did a deep dive in my research about toxicity and discovered that there's a direct relationship or correlation between toxicity in the body, inflammation in the body, and then symptoms. And so because of that very contingent relationship, I thought if I could figure out the best ways to lower her level of toxicity, I could lower inflammation and then lower symptoms.
Yeah.
Now, that isn't necessarily addressing the root cause of Lyme disease and or any other contributing factors, that deficiencies in nutrition or anything like that. But it does give a chronic Lyme patient more of their life back, more of their vitality back, which in many cases, as if we get to talk a little bit about Lyme disease today, it varies and mimics the symptoms from patient to patient. And so because of that, it's very hard to diagnose and very hard to treat. And so it could be very depressing for a Lyme patient that is going from doctor to doctor, being either misdiagnosed or not being treated properly. And then they just kind of get upset or they lose hope. And so just by lowering toxicity, lowering inflammation, lowering symptoms, they start to get hope again. And that's such an important component to healing in general. Yeah. As well as it gives time for the healthcare practitioner to actually dig deep and find the root cause or whatever the proper kind of protocol might serve that particular patient.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I organized a trip and I went to China and saw about 50 or so factories over a 2.5 to 3 month period, and just started to develop infrared devices. Because in my studies, I found the best methods for detoxing. And some of them involved like dialysis, which would be invasive forms of blood cleaning. And then others would be ways like taking either a pharmaceutical, synthetic, or even a natural kind of a chelator that actually pulls the poisons out of the cells or out of the tissues. And then there is sunlight. And there's an extraction of sunlight that actually creates a vibration in the body that breaks up all of these toxins where they're stored and gets the body to go into a sort of an automatic detox. Yeah. Anyway, so understanding all that stuff got me on discovering more about the nature of sunlight. And then that was sort of the genesis of the beginning of our company, because the devices we started to make, my daughter had really great results from. And all the doctors that she was surrounded with, which then were probably, their practices were almost 100% infectious disease, chronic challenges with people that had chronic challenges. And so they saw her results and asked for us to start making these devices for them and their practices. And that was sort of the beginning of our journey.
Wow, that's amazing. And since then, from what I can see in your website, you have then developed so many other products out there, which we will cover some of them also today during our conversation. But it's really amazing to hear that journey, how it brought you to where you are today. And I think that most people, when they think about detoxification, they just think about like some of those YouTube videos that they see that somebody's going on a juice fast or doing something that they think, okay, that's the only way to detox when you do some kind of like extreme things. But what they do not realize that you can also detox through what you just explained today, through the waves from the light that you get. So how does that function? How does that work? Because I think most people haven't heard about that before, at least not many of my listeners. And how did you actually figure out that that's another way of detoxing?
Well, I stumbled on it,
yeah.
Frankly. I mean, again, 25 or 30 years ago in the US, the only people using infrared technology from a health perspective were sports medicine doctors to get injured players to heal faster, lower their pain thresholds, and get them back on the field. And that actually was enough for me because, again, my daughter was expressing high levels of pain. So I thought at the very least, if I could create a device that would be able to lower her pain, then she'd get more comfort, again, more of her life back, functional life back.
Yeah.
And so then as I was doing that, I started to see her getting results in other areas because you can easily determine with different kinds of blood tests and different ways that the body is showing that the body is detoxing, you can see that effect. And then the question is the magnitude. And so we've spent more than 25 years developing different protocols, different health applications, and different devices harnessing sunlight.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting concept, Juan, because you just think about it, it's like it's natural, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody's seeking those things outside of what's right in their front yard or their backyard, right?
Exactly.
You know, the magic pill or the magic device or that when it's staring us right in the face.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the modern world we're living in. Especially if you're living in an urban society, you know, communities are driven, and especially the younger communities, they're looking at faster ways to gamify their lives and make certain conveniences like wireless devices and electric cars and bikes and so forth, you know. But with all of that convenience, there's also, I think, somewhat of a price to pay, because in a sense, we're moving a little bit away from the way nature intended us to be, communing with the earth, smelling the roses, so to speak, getting into the rainforest, going into the oceans, like bringing all of that nature into our lives. Yeah. And so I think that part is super important in terms of the message to send to your community.
Absolutely. And I think that's also the important part of the third word of this podcast, which is planet, because it's all somehow connected. Yeah, if you want to be healthy, you want to be happy, then you also have to link the planet to it. Because if we're not linked to the planet and we divorce ourselves from nature, then we're also automatically divorcing ourselves from a lot of health benefits that we can have if we are connected to nature. Because at the end, from all of the research that I have done, we as humans, we are part of nature, we are nature. So if we detach ourselves from it, then it's really almost like a no-brainer to say, hey, why is our society getting so ill? Why are so many people having chronic diseases? And there's something that we are doing today in society that is not going the right direction. And I think that's so important, these conversations that we're having today, so that people can be aware to have that balance. You know, because I think IT and technology, you could do really good things and really bad things with it. And if you need to use technology, then we need to find that balance on how to still progress in today's society, but not to being the kind of person who's going to be out there in the jungle and just living separate from everything. So it's like finding that balance, but then knowing what are the things that I should do to be still connected to nature and still be healthy, but still be able to go to work and do the normal things that a lot of people are doing. Yeah.
Right. And it's not expensive. Like, you know, when you say connecting to the planet, people say, well, what does that mean? You know, like, you know, I go for a walk and I do these things. But truly, if we were to just think for a moment about our ancestors 10,000 years ago, 8,000, 5,000 years ago, like they lived in caves on the land, they lived in tents, they woke up to sunlight. That was truly living on the planet and immersing ourselves in nature.
Yeah.
As opposed to living in an apartment building that's got air conditioning and heating, controlled environment, or a home. Yeah. Like there's not a lot of nature, and the different, like they call it a microbiome, which is the energies that are outside your controlled environment versus what's inside your controlled environment, right? Yeah. And so the more controlled, the more detached from nature, the more detached from the planet and nature, then you start to get not all the benefits that really have been sort of blueprinted into our bodies as organisms, as animals. And so we are the top of the pyramid on the animal kingdom. Mm-hmm. But yet with all that intelligence, we also have moved a little bit away from the way nature intended us to be involved. And that's where this education today can bring to light the simple and inexpensive ways to connect back to nature, connect to the planet, and then get all the benefits of all these mechanisms and systems that are so beautiful, designed by our creators to have inside our bodies, so we can activate those and then return ourselves slowly back to good health.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was noticing that with my own health a couple of years back when I was working in the corporate world. I was so many hours sitting in the office with artificial light, and then I went to my car, drove back home at night when it was already dark, and had again artificial light at home. Then just watching maybe a movie just before going to bed, getting all that blue light back into my eyes, not being able to sleep properly that night, then waking up again when it's still dark to go early to work, again sitting with artificial light. So at the end, when I was reflecting, I was like, wow, that actually, I was so detached from everything. I didn't barely see nature, and I barely even touched the ground. I never had my feet on the ground, so I was never grounded. I could never allow my body to start doing what it needs to do to heal. Because if you leave the body alone, it will always go towards the direction of healing. It will try to heal. But if you always get in the way as a human doing those bad habits, then your body cannot heal. So that was actually for me one of the turning points where I said, I got to do something with my life, something totally different. And that's where my wife and I, we left the corporate world. We moved to Spain to be more in contact with good weather and sunshine and beach. And that's where we started noticing that our health just started coming back slowly but surely. And today, all of the ailments we had, all the allergies we had, and all of the pains in our joints, it all disappeared. And we feel more energized today than when we were in our teenage days. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's a very common, for me, it's a common discussion because I work with chronically challenged people as well as I deal with many young people and old people that are really healthy now and want to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And when I interview them, they know nothing about grounding. If they're sick, they don't understand how they got there necessarily, and it's hard for them to find their way back. Yeah. But I think from our discussions today, and Juan, many of the things we're talking about are the rudimentary sort of what I call the pillars of what we put into all of the devices and products and protocols we make here at Therasage, because we understand that people don't necessarily have the time in their busy lifestyles, and they're either forced or it's convenient for them to live in populous areas of bigger cities with larger carbon footprints that have toxic environmental implications on the way that they feel. So it's not just disconnect to the earth, but it's also the world that we're living in now and how it affects the genetics that were imprinted into each of our individual selves and how we express ourselves that way. And so I think that what we've done here at Therasage is try to bring nature back into your busy lifestyle so that you could get all the benefits as well as enjoy the modern conveniences at the same time.
Fantastic. When we focus now on the topic red light therapy, does it also cure, for example, topics like acne and autoimmune diseases such as Hashimoto and thyroiditis? Would that also help through red light therapy?
Yeah, red light and the near spectrum of infrared are very, very close to one another on the scale of energy that comes from the sun. Mm-hmm. So red light is visible to your eye, but infrared is not visible to the eye. Okay. Yet the wavelengths have really amazing health benefits to them. Even though they're invisible to the eye, the body receives those energies and then adjusts accordingly. And so to your point, near and red light works with anything skin related. It could be adult or child acne. It could be eczema or psoriasis. It could be healing from scar tissue and adhesions that are just under the scar where the skin mends and the tissues mend, but then they leave little bumps and unevenness or stickiness between the connective tissues, the soft fascia of the body. Yeah. And so it'll smooth all that out. It also produces collagen. So for the women that are listening today, as you get older, your body makes less collagen. And so that's where you get wrinkles and smile lines. For guys, it kind of builds character. For women, they like to maintain a little younger, more youthful look. So rather than using like the Botoxes and the fillers that are part of cosmetic enhancements, now they can do it naturally just by using the light therapy to create that collagen. It also produces a transient gas called nitric oxide that causes the little vessels in your skin, they're called capillaries, they start to expand a little bit, increasing blood flow. And so many women that start using near and red light therapy, they start to get that young, youthful, blushed look without using any kind of makeup because of the increased oxygen and blood flow to their skin.
That's amazing.
It just goes on and on. The red light in the near will also support the powerhouse of the cell that's called mitochondria. Yeah. And so many people are learning about how important having cell energy is for not just cell health and tissue health, but also to build your immune system so you can fight off some diseases that might be trying to come into the body.
Yeah.
All through infrared and red light. It's
Wow.
remarkable how much healing can go on with just a small treatment every day.
That's amazing. And it's nothing invasive, yeah, because lots of things out there want to say, oh, I got to get an injection, or I got to take a pill, I got to do some type of treatment at the hospital. But this is such a, I would say, easy way of getting so many benefits without the side effects. And therefore, my wife and I, we purchased one of the red light therapy devices. And my daughter, she's a teenager right at the moment, so she does have a bit of acne, and she was prescribed from a doctor to take heavy-duty medication for that. And my wife's like, no, we're not doing that over again, because my wife had the same issue when she was a teenager, and she saw what negative effects all of that medication had on her health later in her future life. So therefore, we told our daughter, no, we're not going to do that, but you're going to do this red light therapy that we have here at home. We have the device, so just try it out. And there was quite a high resistance level from our daughter, because usually anything that comes from the parents, it's like, it's not worth that much, yeah, as if it would be maybe coming from a doctor. So she was just laughing at us and say, yeah. So we say, yeah, but we are not going to do any type of therapy from any doctor unless you first try out the red light therapy. So she did that for a couple of days, and now I just heard from my wife a couple of days back, and she said, our daughter is actually saying that her acne is actually getting much better and it's going away. And she's not laughing at us as parents, giving her some kind of advice that she's like thinking that we are just, because usually kids think, okay, my parents are not doctors, what would they know about anything? And that's usually, I think, the hardest part as parents, to convince their kids to do something that could be healthy for them, but it's totally the contrary to what normal society is doing today. Yeah.
Right. And it's a great topic, that the spread or the difference between what you read on advertising and see on TV and also natural healing. And there's sort of a big variance. And also, I mean, as a parent, I totally agree with you. Sometimes I would tell my daughter, don't do something because I wanted her to do it, So I kind of get that whole dynamic there. But at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is just harnessing sunlight. Again, looking at the way the body is responding, and then look at what tools the body has for healing, and then also what we can bring in from nature that will, let's say, jumpstart the body systems to do what I call the heavy lifting in terms of healing. And the skin is the largest organ in the body, and it's also a good barometer. It's a good signaling messaging way for the body to tell you about things that are not exactly right internally in your blood, or maybe a pathogen, a virus or a bacteria that might be upsetting the chemistry inside. So how does the body tell us when things are not right? Yeah. And they do it through signs and through symptoms. And I think one message that I'd love to leave with your audience today is to pay attention to the signs and the messages that your body gives you. As good as a doctor I might be, and a health practitioner, and you, podcast and journeyman, the best doctor in the room right now is the doctor inside both of us. Absolutely. We just have to learn to listen to the signs and the things that our body is telling us, and not listen necessarily, particularly with Lyme, and I'll go back there every so often. Lyme mimics many other diseases. And so many Lyme patients, they go to doctors and they say, doctor, I don't feel good. And the doctor does the blood work and says, well, your blood work seems to be okay. And then they look at you, they examine you, and they go, you seem to look okay, but doctor, I don't feel good. Don't take no for an answer. If you don't feel good, you're not right. Yeah. Right? That's no matter what that practitioner says, because all he's doing from his med school, and I can speak to this because I've been there, is he just goes through a little checklist. How do they look? How do they feel? What kind of symptoms are they exhibiting? And then they try to draw all that information to give the patient why they came for a diagnosis. Tell me what's wrong with me. And when they can't find anything on their checklist, they just say, you're crazy. Go see a psychiatrist. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you. But inside there's something wrong with you, right? or that you don't feel well. So don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And just keep working on trying to find a doctor that will listen to you, or a doctor, health provider, family member that has had some life experience that somewhat resembles what you're experiencing, and then what they did to try to help themselves heal.
Fantastic. And especially if you think about the holistic way, because a lot of doctors, I notice, they're looking at very compartmentalized. Yeah. If they say, oh, he has a skin issue, then you're going to go to the skin doctor and you just get some cream to put over your eczema or anything you might have. And if you have a problem with another part of your body, then okay, we're just going to treat that part of the body. But they do not see the whole end to end. Yeah. We are all, everything is connected with each other. So we really need to look at the big picture and not just, it's just like if I'm trying to improve a process in a large corporation, I'm not just going to fix one little process. We have to really optimize the end to end. And the same goes with our health. And that's why I really enjoyed hearing what you said, that we are all in charge of our own health. So it's like saying we are the CEO of our own health. And we are the only ones who have that inner intuition to know, am I doing really well, or is my body telling me I need to change something in the way we're doing things? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Love that.
Regarding the topic toxicity, because I think a lot of people not so sure where do they get toxicity from. And I do have ideas, and there's so much toxicity at the moment, from so many products that we can get out there in the market. But I would like to hear it also from you, and I'm sure that my listeners will be very curious to hear where do you see that we get the most toxicity into our bodies?
Great question. Okay, so there's basically like internal toxicity, and then there's external toxicity. So the external toxicity is our environment. And how does external toxicity come into the internal environment? So basically in the ways that we bring things into our body, basically our nose. So if the air is polluted, that's toxin. So that's one way. The other is what we bring in through our mouth. And so that could be water and food. So the water, we know many waters, especially again, back to the municipal waters that are either in your home or in the cities, they may not have a lot of particulates or particles in them, but they still are treated with chemicals like fluorides and chlorines and so forth to make water that might be tainted with bacteria or viruses free of that. But then you don't have bacteria, but you have chemicals. So there's always a trade-off, right? So air, water, and food are the main ways that we get things into our body. And they can come in through our mouth. They can come in through our skin. If you're bathing in water or showering in water, and that water isn't like from a natural stream, from a waterfall or from the river or from the ocean or, sea, and it's been treated, now you're immersed and your skin cells, are ones that when they bring in, it's another way to get things into the body directly into your bloodstream is through your skin.
Yeah.
And so there is a layer of fat that's just under our skin that's designed by nature to protect your insides from extreme cold or extreme heat. And that's the basically front line. So things that come into the body through your skin, they're stored in the fat layer under the skin. And that's why many times when people do diets, they go on diets, they feel like a little nauseous. They start doing this diet, and then all of a sudden they start to lose weight, and the fat cell is shrinking. Yeah. Yes, but what's happening? It's letting go of the poisons that those fat cells are holding onto.
Wow.
Most of them, like let's say if you do sauna or you go to a sweat house or you're going for a run and you start to sweat, those poisons come out that way through your skin, again, through the sweat. Maybe 70 to 80% of the poisons will come out that way. The other 15 to 20% go the other way into your bloodstream. Now you get more toxic load on your blood that circulates up to your brain. And then the brain goes, whoa, I'm a little bit dizzy, or I'm a little nauseous, or I have a headache, or maybe you get what's called a histamine response, which could be a skin rash. These are all signs of toxicity in your blood. Yep. Again, reading the signs and the signals that our body gives us and saying, wait a minute, I just went for a run and now I'm not feeling so good. Or I just went for a massage and that massage therapist is working out my stress in my muscle, but they're also pushing the toxins held in the muscle into the bloodstream, circulating up to your brain. All of a sudden, you get up from the table and you're like a little woozy, right? A little dizzy. These are all detox signs.
Wow.
So understanding the signs that your body gives you is super important. Yeah, so we can get toxins in that way. And then there are the toxins that our body produces naturally. Like, for instance, when you go for a run or you're working out at the gym and you're overworking your, let's say, your arm muscle, your muscle actually produces a toxin called lactic acid, and it sits in the muscle. It's the reason why your muscle gets sore.
Okay.
Okay. Now, over time, that lactic acid dissipates, so it goes out, but it's still a toxin. And also, when you're running around and you're doing movement, that movement will also kind of, imagine stirring up the pond. So you're looking at a beautiful pond and you crystal clear water, and then you take a branch and you kind of stir up the bottom, and all of a sudden it gets murky.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you get active. It's actually stirring up and mobilizing toxins that your body's storing, again, creating potentially a headache or some kind of a sign, a detoxing sign. So these are all things to understand. So there's the toxins that our body is making naturally. We have more than 60,000 microorganisms that live in harmony inside of our gastrointestinal tract that's used to digest foods that we eat. Well, those little organisms, they chew up the food and they pre-digest it, right? So in the process, they also poop. That's a toxin. When they had their normal life cycle, they're born, they propagate, and then they die off. That die-off, that skeleton, is a toxin. So there are toxins that the body makes naturally in its normal living process. And we have organs designed to clear all that out, like our liver, our pancreas, our kidneys, our large intestine, sweating out the lymphatic system. These are all detox pathways, filters that we have built in automatically. We don't even have to think about it.
Wow.
But the question is, again, we're living in a modern world. And so in the modern world, when you're bombarded with external toxins and you have your internal toxins, and as you get a little older, you're working these detox pathways day and night, right? So they start to get worn out and they start to not be as efficient. And that's where, again, bringing in some extra help, using binders, using infrared sauna, using different kinds of techniques just to help the body help itself in the modern world that we're living in.
If I just think of some simple things that people might not even be aware about, but just putting any type of cream or lotions onto their skin, and that for me is like, wow, it's so dangerous because you don't even know what type of ingredients that lotion has, and whatever goes on your skin, it probably just goes straight into your bloodstream. So it's not like when you ingest the food and it goes through your organs to filter certain things out. So whatever you're putting on your skin, if it's the shampoo on your head when you wash your hair, or if it's the makeup that ladies put in the morning before going to work or going to school. So that these are all the things that I think it's very important for people to start thinking about becoming a conscious consumer, to know if I'm going to put something on my skin, is it going to be good for me? What type of ingredients does that have? Because I'm just going to increase my toxic load that I have in my body. And many people think, well, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to let go of red meat and I'm going to go for fish, for example. And maybe 100 years ago, eating fish was not so bad. But if you think about all the things that the fish are consuming now in the ocean, and then you eat that fish, it has heavy metals in them. There was somebody who I knew who got even a lead intoxication because this person was eating a lot of tuna, thinking that they were doing something good for their body, but then got a lead poisoning. It's just crazy to know that there's so many things we need to watch out for.
Right.
Yeah.
And even fishes, like, we are very careful about what fishes we eat. I live in South Florida, and so I look for fresh fishes that come from local fishermen when I go to have fish for dinner. But many people think that if they buy a fish that's been farmed, so they have companies that, set up these various different areas where they grow fish for consumption. But the things that they're putting in the water, the chemicals that the fish are using so that they look really good, or that their flesh is very pink, or that it's very cosmetically looking good, also have the same challenges that we see in other food industries like the meat industry, where they're using various different chemicals and
Antibiotics.
certain kinds of injectables and things like that in the animals to try to make them a little bit fatter, make their meat a little bit leaner. So you have to be really careful in today's world. And even plant-based diets don't get you far away either because of the chemicals in the soils. We have a close friend that did a study just testing organic broccoli in 10 different states in the US. And the nutritional value of organic broccoli, the same amount of organic broccoli, varied greatly from one state to another. Wow. Same plant, same vegetable, but yet different nutritional value, which is very surprising, right? Many of these industries are not controlled. So they say it's organic, but they don't necessarily tell you what the nutritional concentration of that vegetable is. They don't need to. It's not necessary, or it's not regulated. And so I just want to bring to the audience, have them understand that to look at a label, like you said, things you put on your skin, if you look at the ingredients and the first 5 ingredients are chemicals that you can't even pronounce, it's probably not good for you. Okay? When you go to a gas station and you eat a food that you buy a food, it may look good in the little cellophane. I always talk about this fast food that's called a Twinkie. It's a little cake here that they sell. I used to eat them a lot when I was a child. It has like a shelf life of 100 years, like it could sit on that shelf for 100 years. I mean, think about that.
Wow.
That's not the same as pulling it from your garden and then putting it on your table that day, or fishing in the ocean or sea and bringing it to your table that day.
Time for a quick break to mention that the sponsor of this podcast is Wave Business Excellence Footprint, a digital training company deeply committed to your career development, personal growth, and the well-being of our precious planet. Dive into a wealth of knowledge with over 20 courses available on our website, www.wave-bef.com. Tailored for both managers and employees aspiring to become tomorrow's leaders. One of our best-selling courses is the Presentation and Communication Skills Training, perfect for those creating and delivering presentations in their companies. Whether through video conference or live meetings, if you want to convey your message effectively and do an outstanding job, this course equips you with the skills to be a better creator and presenter. Check out the testimonials on our website. The results speak for themselves. During my time in the corporate world, I often wished I had the opportunity to access such courses at the beginning, making my learning experience quicker. And now, one further topic before we jump back to the conversation. For those of you resonating with the themes of health, happiness, and planet, discover information about our 3-day retreat in Spain by reaching out to my team at the email address hhp@wave-bef.com. You will obtain further information about our life-changing retreat held once a year, together with some of our remarkable podcast guests. Each retreat is unique, leaving you energized with a set of simple tools to take control of your health and happiness sustainably. And the best part, you will be surrounded by like-minded individuals, ending the retreat with a personal action plan shared regularly within the group.
So the closer we can get to nature, the closest we can get to the soil and to the, to the seas and the waters, the better we are, because it's live foods and we're live beings. And so we can match that up. The closer we can get to that relationship, the healthier it will be for us.
Absolutely, 100%. And that fits pretty well to what I always tell people when they ask me, so what is it that you eat? What is it that we should stick to for being healthier? I usually tell them, well, whatever you're eating came with barcodes, then that means that you should reduce the number of foods that you eat that come with a barcode and just try to take those foods that come straight from our Mother Earth. Anything that's growing from Earth, anything that's regional, local, and you can then cook it at home in the kitchen. But if it came with a barcode, that means that some company created it. And if somebody created it, it's already processed. And if it's processed, it's probably not that good for you. And that's why I think a lot of people who then say, well, I'm going to become vegan because then I will be much healthier. But then there are a lot of people who I've seen who, after transitioning to vegan, they were also not that healthy because they were eating all those vegan burger patties and the different type of fake chicken nuggets, and everything was just processed food at the end, and they were still not getting healthier. So that's why I think a lot of people really have to be careful if they think that they're going to do something and it's going to be better for them, but they're just going to be ingesting as many toxins as they were when they were not vegan. Yeah? So that's why I think that it's a very fine line, to really get to people to be aware that if you're going to do something for your health, just go closer to nature. And the closer you are to nature, the better you're going to do it for the planet, because then you're getting away from all these companies producing all these products. But then on the other side, you're also doing something good for your health. Yeah, so that was a great summary. Thanks a lot for that, Robbie.
Very welcome.
Well, I have a question regarding sauna, because we have here at home one of those portable saunas, older version that we have, and it's the one which produces steam. So it like boils water, and then the steam that comes out from that boiled water goes into the sauna. And I think the ones that you have at Therasage, they're without steam as far as I know, right? They're like dry saunas, is that correct?
Well, it's actually full spectrum infrared, which is not steam and it's not dry.
Oh.
Those ones are what's called convection heat. So the steam or the hot rock, like from the Swedish sauna, it heats the ambient air in the room or the cabin. Yeah. And then that heats up your skin. And eventually it breaks through that layer of fat that supports, holds your inside safe. Yeah. It breaks through that, and then you start to sweat. So usually those environments, they have to be very, very hot, like 185 degrees Fahrenheit or maybe 200 degrees Fahrenheit, in order for it to penetrate through and get inside. The infrared is actually a streaming beam of sunlight. And so it doesn't heat the ambient air. It goes from the sauna to your skin surface easily through that insulating layer, because the infrared frequency, it vibrates at the same frequency as the water inside the fat layer.
Wow.
And that's about 75% water, that fat layer. So it comes through the fat layer that's supposed to hold it back, and it goes right into the body, and it starts vibrating in the densest parts of our body, which is our muscles or our organs. Those areas are usually very vascular. They have a lot of veins and arteries around them. Yeah. And so when that light comes through and starts to vibrate inside the muscle, it generates heat that warms up the vessels. Yeah. The vessels start to expand. That increases blood flow. And now increased blood flow brings more oxygen, brings more healing properties, brings more nutrition to keep your body healthy and vital.
Okay, wow, that's absolutely amazing. So we're definitely going to try that out. And can we actually get your products here in Europe?
Yeah. We make all of our products. We make that come in a 110, 120 electrical current for the US markets and our hemisphere. Yeah. We also make them in 220, 240 versions, voltage for European and countries that are outside the US that use that electrical current.
Okay.
So we service right now 17 countries throughout the world.
Fantastic. That's really good. And I will be putting later on the show notes for the listeners to know where to click on the link to get access to those products and also to your website. And there's another topic I'm very curious about, which is also one of your products that you have on your website, which is the Ozone bubbler. Yeah. How important is it to have such a device for sanitizing your produce?
Oh, it's fantastic. Actually, we created that device maybe about 18 months before COVID came into affecting all the different communities around the world. We brought it to the market maybe 3 months or so before the official announcement of COVID. So we had no idea that people would become so acutely aware of best ways to sanitize their homes and their foods that they eat. It was just coincidental. We had no idea, no tip that this was going to happen globally, you know?
Yeah.
So what I did do as a bioresearcher and the device developer and scientist here at Therasage is I did a deep dive study on the effects of ozone in helping the body heal, as well as how it's used in nature for sanitation.
Yeah.
And so outside of the body, if you take our ozone bubbler, which is a very affordable device, and you plug it in, and again, we make it in electrical current that goes everywhere in the world. So you get one in your home, you plug it into an outlet by your kitchen sink, you bring the hose and the air stone, like a fish tank air stone that creates bubbles, and you put that into your sink that you filled like basically halfway with water. And then you float all of your foods, your fruits, your vegetables. I put my fresh flowers that I cut from my garden. And it's now what that ozone is basically extra oxygen.
Okay.
And that extra oxygen will kill parasites, it will kill mold, it will kill bacteria, it will kill viruses. And will also, when you float your vegetables, it will start to take the chemicals that are used in the agricultural business. It'll take that off the food source too. Wow. So you'll notice when it's floating after like 5 minutes, there's like bubbles and like debris and sort of like white foam and stuff. That's all this junk coming off. And normally, I don't know about you, I wash everything before I eat it.
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
Still, even washing it, I would wash it and then I put it in the bubbler water.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how much more stuff was coming off.
Oh my God.
So now you can take that same device, put it on the floor in your bathroom, bring the hose into your bath water, and then put a little magnesium in your bath, bubble the water, the ozone into your bath water. And now you're taking a hot bath, you're bringing magnesium like Epsom salt through your skin and the extra oxygen, because that's what ozone is. It's defined by nature as O3. Normally, like we know O2, which is the oxygen we breathe. O3 is ozone, and it's a very, very unstable oxygen molecule. So it doesn't like to be O3 for very long. But once we get that extra oxygen in our body, it will kill the parasites in our body. It'll kill mold that might be in our body. It will kill bacteria that might be in our body. Wow. So when you use oxygen therapy, like ozone therapy, you can bubble into water and drink it. You can bubble into your bath and bathe in it. I use the bubbled water and I put it in my water pick. I sanitize my razor. I sanitize my toothbrush. I take the bubble, I put it in my water pick, and I put it into my gums so it kills the bacteria that's hiding in my gums.
Wow.
There are so many uses and so much great things it can do for you. And we're talking about not a lot of money and not a lot of time.
Yeah.
It takes me 3 minutes in the morning after I brush my teeth to run my water pick to get that extra benefit. Wow. So, these are great things for your audience to know.
I'm blown away, and I'm sure many of the listeners as well. Wow.
Right.
Fantastic.
So back to our discussion. One thing is to watch the things that you're putting into your body and the water you're swimming in, the water you're drinking. The other is to create either foods that will naturally detox or sauna and things like that can help your body, whatever you are storing, whatever gets by with all the work you do, because some things will get by, right?
Yeah.
That you do maintain something every day to help you detox. Because when I'm asked this question about my infrared sauna, how often should I use my infrared sauna? And I turn it back to the audience and I say, well, how often do you get toxic? Because if you're living in Valencia in Spain and you get toxic Monday, Wednesday, Friday, each week, I'm moving to Valencia. Because as far as I know, where I am in Florida, I get a little toxic every day.
Yeah.
So I try to do something every day to get a little detox, to keep myself even. And I think that's part of the key to longevity. And I think what happens in the Western world is we don't do any of that. We don't do incremental healthcare, taking care of ourselves a little bit every day. Yeah. And we build up and we build up and we build up, and then eventually we get very symptomatic. And then what do? We want to take a pill to make it go away, right? Or if that doesn't work, we wind up being in hospital, and then we wind up getting surgery. I mean, it's just on and on, right?
Exactly.
So if we could tell the audience just a small little bit of homework through this podcast, getting to learn a little bit, maybe getting inspired by some things we're talking about. And then incorporating little lifestyle changes that you do with you and your family every day. So your kids grow up knowing infrared sauna is something I do for 20 minutes every morning just to stay healthy, right? It's not because I'm sick. It's just to stay on top of my game.
Yeah.
Like little things like that could make a huge difference in your health span, which is more important to me than lifespan.
Oh, yes.
So I want to have you healthy to the end.
Yeah.
Right? And, not necessarily live longer. Like in the US, I live in South Florida, people retire and the last 10 years or 15 years of their life, they're going from clinic to clinic rather than enjoying their golden years, everything they've worked for their entire lives. I would prefer you being healthy and vibrant all the way.
Yeah.
And then enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Exactly. And really making your body more resilient so that you can live more of that quality life and not quantity where you say, oh, I got to 100, but you were suffering the last 10 to 20 years. Or you can say, I got to 100, but I was still doing push-ups. I was still doing my long walks. I was still doing, all these festivities with my family because I was able to, because my body allowed me to, because I was taking care of my body all these years.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. And one final topic before we close for today is regarding the topic mold. That was something that you did mention a few times as well in our conversation. And people would think initially about the mold that we get on the walls, maybe in the apartment where we live. So we just try to stay away from that. But I think that probably also through foods, we also can get molds. Is that correct?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
First off, let me just say, people focused on mold if you lived or you were around a coastal city. Like we're in South Florida, we're surrounded by water and we have seasonal rains and things like that. And you may see the same where you are, but it's not confined anymore to just a coastal city. It's really a problem, a systemic problem, an environmental problem. And so there are thousands of variations of mold. But there's only maybe less than 100 variations of mold that actually will affect our health. And so we became experts in mold at Therasage because we are very conscious of the Lyme community and Lyme patients that have managed to figure out how to have a good lifestyle, be somewhat asymptomatic, not really expressing themselves. As soon as they get introduced to a moldy house or a mold environment, they go from being healthy to being almost bedridden overnight. Wow. And that caught my eye maybe 10 years ago. And I thought, well, if I am truly going to support the Lyme community, I really need to understand all the different things that could affect them and how. And so not necessarily on today's call dissecting the relationship between the microorganism mold and the Lyme. That's not important. What's important is we went through the exercise ourselves. We aligned ourselves with a company in the US that is an expert in mold remediation. Then we went through in our home in South Florida, we actually remediated our home. When I tested the rooms, 11 rooms in my house, I discovered that there were 7 different variations of mold, but only 3 of them were harmful. And so once I identified which 3, I was then able to get the proper chemical formula to what they call fogging, but basically it's creating a mist in the house to kill those mold and then also discover why I had mold. And in Florida, it's, like the shingles come up, little water drips in behind the wall, it warms up the wall. It's a beautiful environment for mold to grow, dark, warm, and moist. Wow. Okay, so the question is it a bad mold or a good mold? I'm not going to wait until I get mold toxicity and symptomatic. Then you're way behind the 8 ball. So what I do now is I test my home at least twice a year, sometimes maybe even 4 times a year, because we discovered we had it. Yeah. Okay, and then after that, you fix it. But people think that you fix it once and it goes away. No. It's in our environment. It's outside. It's all around us. And so you have to kind of stay on top of it. It's much easier to fix it like incrementally, like twice a year or 3 times a year, than wait. And then you've got either a problem with your health or if not, then you potentially could. It might be one of the contributing factors with a challenge that you have with your health. And so we just think that it's a big category that the audience should know. It's not expensive to discover it. Like these little dishes you put out to collect the mold that's in the air, they're $3
Wow.
US.
Okay.
So it's not expensive. And you can place them strategically. You can collect after 2 or 3 days. You can see what's growing in the little dish. You can look at it yourself on our website or other websites to see what it looks like. Or you could send that dish in and have them laboratory test it to tell you exactly what it is.
Wow.
And then you just figure out where it's coming from. So you stop that. Then you know what you got. So you fix that. And then you make sure you maintain that. So it's a little bit of a process, but trust me on this one, it's a lot worse if you wait, and then you wait until your body gets ill because of it. And especially the little ones.
That's right.
Super important.
Yeah, because you never know when is the tipping point. Because if you are just having that toxic load that it's accumulating in your body, because maybe you bought a new carpet, then you bought a new car that has all the glues, then you bought a new furniture, and then you have a new sofa. And so you're just increasing all that toxic load in your body. And then suddenly you have a mold in your home. And then suddenly your body's like, okay, that's the tipping point. That's it. And then you get all kind of health issues.
Yeah, to that point, Juan, people think like, what was the last straw that broke the camel, right? Broke their back.
Yeah.
So let's say it's mold. Then you think, okay, I'm just going to take that straw back and then I'm going to go back to where I was before, but it doesn't work that way. So what happens is that last straw breaks the camel's back and now you have to fix the camel's back. And so it may take a really long time for you to get your health back because that tipping point is almost like a saturation point in the body where you can't take it anymore. Your organs, everything starts to sort of rebel, and then you get more symptoms, and it can get complicated very fast. So my goal would be, especially for the community listening today, is to do things little step by step, make small little adjustments in your lifestyle, create a healthy home. Yeah, just do things incrementally that can fix you every day a little bit. And then those little bits on the positive add up to good health and longevity.
Absolutely.
Left alone, you just have little bits of minus, and then eventually that adds up and you could have much more bigger challenge.
Absolutely. My listeners, they seem to be at times, when I look at all those comments, that they feel a bit overwhelmed about all the things that they need to watch out for. So I usually recommend them to just to see when is the next time I'm going to buy the next shampoo, or when is the next time I'm going to purchase the next product, when is the next time I need a new t-shirt or jeans. So that is the time when you can start researching about clothing. And if you're going to buy maybe your next toothpaste, then that's the time when you can start researching about toothpaste with fluoride or not. So these are the things which I say, you don't have to do everything at once. Don't try to boil the ocean with a little cooker. Just do step by step. And whenever the next thing is in front of the door that you have to make a decision, then you can start making some research and see what's the best decision to make at that point of time.
I love that. Especially when it comes to household chemicals, detergents, things that you use very often. And often many of us, they just rely on the local like EPA or different agencies from the government to protect us. But what we discovered is many of those agencies don't do their best job in protecting us, that it really is back on us to determine what's good for ourselves and our family. Yeah. And there are healthy choices out there, and there are ones that are inexpensive. May I recommend a very good read for your customers and for people watching? There's a dear friend of mine whose name is Darren Olean, and he has a podcast also where has many followers. Yeah. And he wrote a book called Fatal Conveniences, and he just published it. And it's all about all the things that we find convenient in our modern world and which ones will hurt us. Yeah. And it's a real big eye-opener because you realize certain things that we just took for granted are not so healthy for us. Yeah.
That's so good that you mentioned that, because I'm an avid follower of that podcast and I love it because it really surprises me, all the things that I did not know. So it's really, you fall into the term that probably most people have heard, that the more I know, the more you realize how much you did not know. And I did purchase the book as well. I'm reading it at the moment, and it is fantastic to really help you make the right habits for the future. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great. And as you said, the misconception, I think, of a lot of consumers is that if it's on the shelf to be sold, that they think that it's already approved, that it's safe, that the government says it's good for you. But it's something that I think people really need to be aware about. If it's on the shelf, it does not mean that it's good for you or that it was tested even. Yeah, because sometimes if there are certain new chemicals in a product, because I think there are 1,000 chemicals that are created new every single year. So of course, no government or company can even keep up with testing all those new chemicals, and they're just sending their new products out there, and we are just like a human experiment just to see, okay, what's going to happen, what kind of side effects are people going to have, and okay, if they have that side effect, then maybe then I will start adjusting my product. And that's something that really, I think it's very important to know about. Yeah, then you will be a bit more aware when we purchase our next product.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Robbie, for that amazing hour that we just discussed a lot of topics. And I'm sure we could have discussed another couple of hours regarding other products that you have on Therasage. But I will definitely put that link into the show notes so that my listeners can look into your website and check out all those different products that you have that will facilitate our life to be, as you mentioned today, quality life, to the one that you can really thrive and be a happy person. So thank you so much. And so where else can our listeners find you, Robbie?
I think probably the website would be a good one. That's Therasage, THERASAGE.com. Also, we have an active Facebook and Instagram, Therasage Infrared. One of the first things I do every day is I look at my Instagram because we don't pay for the advertising. And so it's really nice to see people enjoying our products and spending time in their lives to share their stories publicly. And so you can see the excitement. People bring their kids in, they bring their dogs and cats into the sauna and different things we make. And you can see the joy that they have when they're actually taking more control over their health and their life. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And the other thing which I really have to give you lots of compliments about, that usually a lot of devices that you buy for home where you have to plug it in, it also emits all these EMFs in the house. And I think a lot of your products have that grounding effect so that you can also be grounded while you use those products. Yeah, and that's another plus and another rabbit hole that one can go in and speak for another hour.
Yes, we should do that on part 2.
Exactly. Sounds very good. So, well, thank you so much, Robbie. It was amazing to discuss all of these topics that we covered today. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to part 2 at some point of time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye. What an enlightening chat with Robbie. Here are the key takeaways from our talk. Point number 1. Detoxification is crucial for maintaining health and happiness in today's world. Learning nugget number 2. Red light therapy can be an effective and non-invasive way to treat various skin conditions while also promoting healing and reducing inflammation. Point number 3. Different types of saunas, such as infrared saunas, can aid in detoxification. Point number 4. The ozone bubbler is a valuable tool for sanitizing produce and removing toxins. Using a water pick can be beneficial for oral health and can help kill bacteria in the gums. The next learning point that I took from this episode is that regularly testing for mold in the home is crucial for maintaining a healthy living environment. Point number 6. Being a conscious consumer and avoiding toxic products is important for reducing your toxicity in your body. And the final point, making small lifestyle changes can have a significant impact on overall health and well-being. Be sure to check the show notes for all the links and details on how to connect with Robbie. And now, I would love to know, which part of this episode spoke to you the most? Your feedback is incredibly important to me and to my team, so please take a moment to rate, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it valuable. Your support truly inspires me to continue creating content that makes a difference. I can't wait to connect with you again in the next episode. Big hug, everyone!